Kansas. We've made it to Kansas on Route 66, and just inside the border is the little town of Baxter Springs. It's one of those Main Street USA, heartland of America places. The town itself is not very large, but you might want to stop in and check out some of the local color, because Route 66 through Kansas isn't very long at all. Just under 13 miles, which means that every soda fountain, old theater, old museum, vintage sign, and local business are sort of main attractions down here. Look at this Sleepy Girls collectibles. Look at that tiny little VW out there on that trailer. And then over here, you got the big old Somewhere in Time antiquity store. Oh my gosh, wow. This place has so much soda in it. It's like just as much general store as antique store. It's awesome. Whoa. A lot of space in here. I try to support all the local businesses I can. I try to encourage my son here, London, to find at least one little treasure from each town we go to. Too bad that won't fit in the car. Ooh, it's a man made of Crocs. All right, well, we got a few treasures from back there. Sleepy Girls is closed today. Dude, check out that little mini VW van. That's cool. The best place to stop in Baxter Springs is right over here at the edge of downtown. It's this beautiful restored 1930 Phillips 66 station that now serves as the Kansas Route 66 Visitor Center and Information Center. You can't get gas over here, but you usually can find some friendly, smiling faces, a little information on the local history around here. Here's the history of the station itself. And most importantly, a working restroom. Wow, there's way more stuff in here than there was last time. It's packed with old memorabilia. Look at the old oil pump there. There's that working restroom I told you about. Well, look at this. You can come and play a friendly game of checkers or sign your name on the wall. Holy moly, a lot of people have been in here. Oh, the old uniforms.
In fact, we just had a young couple from Thessalonica, Greece.
Really?
Earlier this morning, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's amazing. Route 66. There's even more in this room.
Yeah.
There's so many signatures, it just keeps going and going all the way into the maintenance garage. Holy cow. All right, time to sign. I was looking up high. I was thinking about getting a ladder or a chair because I was trying to find someplace not signed. Look at this. London's smart. He found a spot by the floor. Not my best writing, but
You proved that you were here.
yeah, hard to write by the floor. Every country on earth, every state in the union.
I'm looking right now at Denmark, right in front of you there.
Dang. Ooh, here's a display about a local legend I've actually never met. Dean Crazy Legs Walker, one of the inspirations for the character of Tow Mater in the Pixar movie Cars, because Dean used to turn his legs around backwards and walk. Look at this. Apparently he can't do it now because of old age, but every once in a while he stops in here and greets visitors. It's just not our day for Crazy Legs Walker. It's never my day for him. I met a lot of Route 66 legends, but never that one. Well, Larry inside of there was very, very friendly. And now we're gonna roll out of Baxter Springs. And even though they got a fantastic history museum in town, it's closed today, it's Monday. All right, it can be a little difficult to follow the path of old 66 out of Baxter Springs. So make sure you pay attention to the signs. You wanna be on the oldest part of Route 66 here because it leads you towards something amazing. The skinniest, oldest portion of Route 66 through Baxter Springs leads you on after 2 or 3 miles of some of the most beautiful scenery on the little 2-lane back roads of Route 66 to the epic and beautiful Rainbow Bridge. Look at this beautiful 1923 bridge. It's sort of out in the middle of nowhere now because obviously it was replaced by bigger, wider highways that moved away, and the bridge itself is fairly narrow. But it is an amazing just work of art out here running over Brush Creek. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in the 1980s, right before I was born actually. And it's the only remaining Marsh Arch Bridge, whatever that means, on Route 66. You know, obviously I've been up and down Route 66 a few times, and there are a few spots that I just have to stop at, no matter how many times I've been there before, and just sort of soak in the scenery, and the Rainbow Bridge is one of them. It is absolutely gorgeous, and you can still drive over it. I've just walked back and forth over it a couple of times, which isn't a great idea today because the heat index is somewhere up around, 115 or something like that, and actually, it's turning the road back into tar. Very sticky today. Still worth the walk though, and still worth it to look down into that beautiful brush creek. Just be careful flying a drone around here because there's a whole pack of swallows going crazy defending their turf up there. They're dive bombing drones, they're dive bombing cars and cameras. Well, they're protecting their babies. What do you expect? They gotta protect them from hawks and everything. Look at this, behind that more modern barrier. You see the federal aid project right there, 1923. Says at the bottom. And it's gorgeous out here, you know. I love going through the small towns. I love seeing the diners and the attractions and the wacky roadside stuff, but sometimes it's that 2-lane roads in the middle of all this greenery, all this beautiful landscape, and then something like this where you have an excuse to stop and really just soak in the vibes that, I don't know. It's moments like this where I think, dang, that's what Route 66 is all about. Look at that pack of swallows, man. It's because a hawk was flying through. They are angry. Those are angry birds. All right, I love to linger, but there's still like 9 more miles of Route 66 in Kansas we got to blast through. Most of it is just sort of just road. Not a lot to stop at and a lot to see, but on the far edge of Route 66 in Kansas is one more town called Galena. And yes, I know I'm skipping a few things. Now, Galena is the ore that you mine to get lead, sometimes silver. And there were all kinds of weird lead mines and mining operations around here. There are ghost towns that were sort of toxicified by the mining out in this region. The Route 66 portion of Galena is super interesting because Route 66 used to take this weird turn to the north and then a sharp turn to the east. And then later they just smoothed that out and sent it into Missouri going down that street. So the whole original path of Route 66, there's a whole chunk of the original downtown that's super Kansas-y, but also a mining town, very Main Street, USA, very old school mining town, is abandoned enough to have a ghost town vibe and has got tons and tons of Route 66 history along it and plenty of gas and petroleana stuff. This gas station right here was built in 1939. For a long time it's been Gearhead Curios, and look at that. They got freaking Doc Hudson from Cars out here. Doc Hudson sort of strikes me as a Kansan. He's got that kind of vibe about him. So I haven't had a chance to actually come in here when it's open, but it helps you understand just why I love coming back down Route 66 multiple times, because this wasn't even here last time I was here. Fake Tyler? This is one of those towns I always think is so full of possibilities. There's so many empty, old historic buildings. And as you cruise up Main Street, you can see so much like 1800s architecture that then was covered with sort of 1930s and 1950s architecture. There's cute little local offices and hardware stores down here. It's not completely abandoned, just enough to sort of give it that romantic vibe. All right, after you've looked at the majority of old Main Street in Galena, you got to come all the way down here, all the way to the north end, and there's something pretty special. This old filling station right here, the old Canotex, Cars on the Route, is home to a very special icon on the old Mother Road. No, not this Tomater replica. It's this guy right next to him, affectionately known locally as Toe Tater. Look at this old boom crane truck right here. This truck, abandoned on the side of the road in Galena, Kansas, is the very one that Pixar's Joe Ranft was looking at here on the side of old Route 66 that inspired the creation of the character of Tomater. Now, of course, he's been pulled out of the grass and somewhat cleaned up and left here for visitors to enjoy. You can see there the old layers of paint. And of course, the massive boom crane on the back of him. Well, you look at the Tomater design, and you see the very same stuff. It's a very historic corner because the garage across the street was the inspiration for Doc Hudson's garage in the film. Joe Ranft was the voice of Big Red, the fire truck in the movie Cars, and since this is where he was inspired to create Tomater, they've got their own Big Red out here on the side of the road. Just across the street from Cars on the Route, that used to be an old brothel, and that right turn right there, that is the path of old 66 into Missouri. It's interesting because Cars on the Route and Toe Tater right there used to be sort of the last thing to see, but in recent years, right alongside the old railroad tracks and mine-tailing piles and city dump that used to be the only scenery going this way. Look at that. Get a good peek, city boy. You got the sheriff up there on a pole. Perfect for being right past the inspiration for Doc's garage. And check this out. This was basically just an abandoned shack a few years ago, and now it's Luigi's Pit Stop. I love it because it's all hand-painted and home-brewed. I believe the local high school had a lot to do with it. Look at that. They got a little Fiat there for Luigi. They've got those great old-school wooden cutouts over here. Check that out. And all the tractor tipping fun you could want. Oh, look back there. Don't let Frank catch you. No wonder this very creative Lightning McQueen looks absolutely terrified. Look at Frank. I love this. I love this stuff. The more homemade anything is, like any of these attractions, the more that I love them. I love that. You got another Pixar photo op, but look at this one. Yes, Toto, there is 66 in Kansas. You can come beat Dorothy. Look. Oh, this is unusual. It looks like you got a bunch of kids here. Even looks like a kid driving. You're smoking a cigarette, though. I'm not sure. Well, you know, things were different back in the day. They've got a little sign out here for you to sign. And a very fun biker photo op right here. Just lots of fun, quirky, off-the-cuff, homemade, interesting stuff to take pictures with, because this is your first stop in Kansas if you're coming from the east, going from Chicago to LA, or for us, going backwards. This is the last stop on the route before we hit the border with Missouri. And here it is, the state line leaving Kansas and heading into Missouri. Now remember, for a while, Kansas was a dry state, kept a bunch of dry counties, no alcohol sales allowed. So right when you cross the border into Missouri, all you've got is bar after bar after bar. All these little filling stations had bars inside of them. And it's funny because look at that. That little house right over there is on the Kansas side. He didn't care if they outlawed booze in Kansas. He could just walk across the street and bam, he was good to go. This isn't even really a town. This is just a settlement that sprung up right here to take advantage of different tax laws, different booze laws, dry county laws, Sunday liquor laws. And we did it, dude. We are finally in Missouri, our second to last Route 66 state. It's a big one, though. But we've got to make up for a lot of lost time. We've got to boogie through this part of Missouri. We are barely going to have time to stop because we have somewhere to be today before we finish this adventure. Somewhere in Missouri that's one of my favorite spots along Route 66. Now, even though we're moving through this area of western Missouri pretty quickly, I still follow the old path of Route 66 as much as possible. I still want London to experience it. I love seeing it out of the windows, and it's worth it even if you have to just drive through and look from the car. I tend to be a little bit biased towards those little two-lane highway sections of Route 66, the sort of middle of nowhere sections, over the kind of downtown sections. But I gotta say, downtown Joplin, Missouri is absolutely gorgeous. They got a lot going on down here. But we'll save looking around here more for next time because we're cruising up through Webb City and over to Carthage just to get a sneak peek and a fun pic over here outside the Boots Court, newly restored. Last time I was here, they were just beginning that restoration. It's an old school, historic 1939 motel that I cannot wait to stay in, although it's gonna have to wait until my next trip because we actually have a different historic motel to stay in tonight. But first, before we get there, we have got to pass through one of my favorite spots, like I keep teasing, of Missouri 66. So we're flying down all these beautiful scenic back roads that look a lot better from the air-conditioned car today, let me tell you. Passing by the turnoff for Red Oak 2. It's a little bit painful to stop by some of these beautiful places on the little side roads and everything else. The old road goes straight for miles and miles and miles, but there's a little turnoff. An old alignment of Route 66 that comes down this little tiny country road. It starts winding in and among the trees down here, headed down towards a creek. This is one of the most absolutely beautiful parts of old Route 66, this narrow winding road, the trees. Kind of one of the least known parts too. It's hard to find on a map. Welcome to Spencer, Missouri. Dude, this is one of my favorite spots ever. Look at this, you've got Spencer Station, the old Phillips 66, the cafe, the barber shop, the Spencer Feed and Seed. This has always been sort of a mystery location because there's really no town here. I mean, look all around us. You see fields, a few scattered houses, but that's about it. And look at this. It's on this beautiful, windy, tree-lined section of old Route 66. The original paving is here. And then down there, a beautiful old school bridge over a beautiful little creek. Apparently there was some sort of settlement going all the way back to the 1800s, but in 1925, a man named Sidney Casey purchased the town for $500. Maybe he knew Route 66 was about to come through here because he not only purchased the town, but he started to build all these little businesses right along the side of the highway between 1926, 7, 8, and of course, eventually, like every good Route 66 story, The bigger version of the highway bypassed this in the 60s. It fell into ruin. Then a guy by the name of Ed Klein purchased it and began restoring it, or at least doing a full restoration in 2022. And we're about 5 minutes early, but we're supposed to meet Ed Klein out here and for the first time ever unlock the mysteries of Spencer.
Hi, I'm Ed Klein. Actually, we own the town of Spencer. Bought it 2 years ago in 2022. Spencer has always been my favorite place. I've been on every inch of this road, but there's something about Spencer that is unlike anything else. Starting off, Johnson Creek Bridge was built in 1923, so at the time this was still a dirt road. This was called the Springfield Carthage Wagon Road, and a gentleman named Sidney Casey literally walked 55 miles from Bull Shoals, Missouri. He had a general store back there. He was married and had 3 little boys at the time. He walked here because he found out there was going to be a U.S. highway coming through here. And he bought actually what was a 1910-ish wooden general store that's no longer standing. So when folks come by here, they see all these buildings. These weren't here when he bought the property. This was an open space. He actually bought an old general store. And his plans were, as the workers were working, putting the road down in 1926, and what the workers would do is they would have tent camp cities and they would move their tent camps every half mile. He would sell to the workers, and then when traffic was to come through, he was going to sell to the travelers. That was his plan. But rumor has it is that the old wooden general store was falling apart in 25, 26, so he built the old general store, the wooden one now that we have, that was built and completed in 1926. So by him doing that, we actually get to celebrate 100 years when Route 66 celebrates 100 years. Now the road was poured, you got travelers coming by, so Sidney was like, we need to do some more work. He built the Spencer gas station in 1927, and from 1927 to about 1938, it was a Tidal station. 1938, he switched it over to a Phillips 66 station. Then in 1928, he built a barbershop and the cafe. The Casey family actually never ran a cafe or barbershop. They always leased it out to folks. And so that was open until about the 40s, when the feed and seed got so popular that Sidney started to encroach into the barbershop and then into the cafe. And it was really one store until about 1961. And in 1961, Highway 96 came through, and like the movie Cars, this road was bypassed. And so the town of Spencer now pretty much just disappeared and died. The Casey family has owned this property from 1925 to 2007, and a couple named Francis and Marilyn Ryan out of Salina, Kansas, they came out here, made an offer, and bought the building. So I always say Francis and Marilyn Ryan and their friends have saved Spencer.
So they're the ones that threw up the roof on
They're the
here
ones who put the roof on. They're the ones who put the canopies on. They're the ones who put the gas pumps on.
Because that's how I saw it last time.
Yes,
I didn't
so-
see it like this, though. You've clearly done some work yourself.
Yeah, so on the inside is a lot of the work that we've done, but they're the saviors of this place. The Casey family has graciously kept it in the family for all those years, and then they came in and they just made sure that the building wasn't falling apart. So in the last 2 years, what we've done is upgraded the electrical, made sure the electrical was good. We're out of power already. Putting the ceilings in, the roofs in. We're getting everything to look like how we want it to look like. And then, as you know, today is a little bit of a warm day. We'll start getting mini splits put in there to get some AC put in because I'm tired of sweating, and I'm tired of people seeing me sweat.
Dude, you weren't kidding about sweating. It is so hot out here.
So the front door has been closed to the public, generally to the public, since 1961. Francis and Marilyn Ryan opened it just a couple times for charitable runs and charitable events like that, because they were big into helping out charities, and they asked us actually to continue that, which we have.
And now we get to step inside this. Whoa.
So our 1928 cafe, we're bringing this back to a 30s, 40s cafe diner. I've spent the last year and a half working on the ceiling in here and in the barber shop, getting electrical updated. We're working on the walls right now, and as soon as the walls are done, we'll still pick out a tin pattern, and then we'll tin up the ceiling and do a couple other things. So we're looking to have a small cafe.
And you're actually going to serve people food in
Yes,
here?
so we'll serve little, I call them breakfast and lunch items during the weekends, because we're open most weekends. And then this place will be done here.
So this is just going to be like a museum. You're going to get this place open.
Correct.
And catering back to travelers on Route 66.
So one of the jokes I always have is that we'll fully be open in 10 years when we retire. If lumber goes up, we'll retire in 12 years. And so, but yeah, so this is more of our retirement plan, but it's going to take some time to get all this. Garage will probably do a gasoline-themed banquet hall event center. There's a lot of museums on Route 66 that are gas station based, and we find more and more folks would like to come here and host car shows and do things like that. So we thought that would be a great venue place to have because there's nothing else like that.
Yeah.
I call that project my other kidney. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that place.
Right.
So the barbershop, what we'll do is we'll bring this back to a more of a museum type. It'll be from mid-1800s to 1949. I tell everybody everything in this building is going to be 1949 or earlier because the 26 through 48, 49 was the era of this place. After that, it became pretty much one big grocery store. A lot of the folks that come in that do remember this place being open, remember the counters being over there, remember this, but it was more grocery store based.
Okay, so at one time, then these were all closed off from each other. They were individual businesses.
Yes.
And then they got taken all over by the family and turned into one.
Yeah, so the family
space.
expanded their grocery stores. Everybody keeps asking us about the arches, if they're original to the building, and they are. They're original from 1928.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's where I was going with that. I wanted to know.
Yeah. So they were never closed. So we'll do that. We'll have a collection of barbershop stuff in here. We have a 1935 postmaster desk, which will eventually get moved into the other room. We had a gentleman in here 2 weeks ago. He was in here in 1960, and he vividly remembers the post office right inside the general store, which I'll show you. And also from 1940 to 1960, this was a Greyhound bus stop. And so we're starting to get more and more information on that. So I have some stuff in here about that.
I have to already thank you, even halfway through the tour, for letting us in here, because I've stopped out there a million times. I never thought I'd ever get inside, Ed. Never. I was like, especially back in the day when it looked like there was no roof and the place was going to fall apart, and you're like, oh, I just want to go in there. Okay, so this was the first building.
So this was the first building built in
Didn't start with the gas station.
No, in 1926, Sydney built the Feed and Seed, which again allows us to celebrate 100 years in 2026 when Route 66 has their 100-year anniversary. We're going to do something big. It'll be on Facebook. I don't know what it is yet. My wife is planning it. I'm just building it. So the ceiling was caved in when I first came by in 2008. In 2010, the Ryans had somebody put the trusses up with the metal, and so we have to insulate it and drop a ceiling. We'll do a tongue and groove ceiling in here, and then we'll do a 1930s general store museum on the west wall, and then we'll just have a really nice little gift shop over on the east wall. So we had a gentleman that came in, and he said actually the post office was located right here. Folks came in through the front door from the general store, got their mail, and got out and didn't want to bother anybody shopping over here. We're just so honored to be able to continue the tradition and bring back a part of Route 66 history. And even though everybody calls it Spencer, we named it Spencer Station because Spencer was really the town, which we're trying to find out how big it was. And Lord knows in the future, we might add on to things and call it other things as well. So we wanted to honor the Spencer name, but have it as our own at the same time.
When the Casey family sold the building to the Ryans, was there anything left in here, or was it just completely empty, gutted?
So the green scale is original to the building.
Okay, the green scale.
Yes, so that is original to the building, and the gold scale up in the cafe is original. And the Ryans gave us a box of receipts and business papers from Sidney Casey. So these are from the 40s.
Oh, wow.
And we have these displayed. But
so these are actually from the
These
family.
are the original receipts from the this
From
place
the store.
here.
That's
And then
so
we have
cool.
locked up a 1930 checkbook from Sidney Casey. And so it's a personal checkbook that's very fragile, so we have it locked up.
But like the pumps outside or some of the advertising, this is stuff that is coming back to Spencer. It's
Yes.
more about restoration and getting the vibe.
Try to get things period correct and try to think what would have been here. And like I said, even the receipts help us out because it's amazing looking through them. You didn't know what they sold until you start looking at the receipts.
Yeah.
And like, that is they sold everything from peaches to overalls to chicken eggs.
So you've been trying to track down some family members, and you've gotten a few pictures, but only one of the inside.
There's only one of the
place.
inside of Sidney Casey back probably in the late 50s. And it's very dark and very blurry, and it doesn't help us. But like I said, that was in the 50s. We're trying to find things back in the 40s. So a lot of the photos we have received from the family are from outside, front of the building back in the 40s.
So if anyone's out there and has an ancestor that stopped in Spencer, you have any photos, give Ed Klein a call.
Yes, please. We're dying for information because we want to bring this back as close to how it was and still be functional.
Okay, I see 6 Spencer Station merch. So are you open to the public now? Is it special events only?
We're open, and I say open, we're open most weekends. You know, like I mentioned, we have full-time jobs, so we let folks come in. Rule number 1 is we stop everything we do to let folks come in because, like yourself, first time coming through here, And other people who are traveling around the world, we've had 6 continents in here, and I say if you're here from Antarctica, it's because you escaped. Yeah. So we, and we didn't have a gift shop that long ago. I was like, I'm more under construction, but we get a lot of folks who want to buy things.
Yeah, and they want to
so
help.
Next thing you know, we got shirts and stuff. And my running joke is every purchase helps us adopt a 2x4 from Home Depot.
Sure.
And we have it's on a website too. And so,
yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. If you have is there an online way somebody could get a piece of Spencer swag? Look at that, a swag bag right there. Is there like an online way?
Yeah, spencerstation.com. We have that. And Facebook is Spencer Station Route 66. But awesome. Coming in the buildings are free. My wife makes cupcakes every weekend. She makes cupcakes every weekend, and we give them away for free because next year you're paying for them.
This is
and they're
amazing.
gone. They're gone. They're phenomenal.
Okay, so eventually we'll be able to sit down here just like people in the 20s, 30s, 40s and have a meal.
A small meal.
That's insane, though. We're going to be able to sit here at the counter. This isn't your first rodeo, right? Like doing Route 66 preservation?
I've done everything from organize groups to do preservation jobs. I even do things like swing a hammer, grab a paintbrush, television probably about 5 times, a couple keynote speaks or speeches, blogs, whatever people asking me.
So you've been involved for years.
17 years
Route
now.
66.
17 years.
So why Spencer?
It is my favorite place. There's nothing like this. There's nothing like this anywhere on Route 66. And I have some favorite things. The Roadrunner sign in California.
Yeah.
And Ryan Anderson, know him very well. I've done work with them. That's my favorite sign. And anytime he needed help, I'd go out there and help him. Meteor City Trading Post, help them. And there's a list of places I've been that I just show up, give me a paintbrush, let me go to work.
There's a couple of like really special places to me where Rainbow Bridge is one of them.
Yeah.
Painted Desert Trading Post will now be one of them. And Spencer, where I have to pull over and spend 5, 10, 15, a half an hour in front of it and just soak in this weird, you feel like you took a step back in time or into another dimension. And Spencer's always been like that favorite spot I have to stop.
Yeah.
And so I'm so stoked that it's going to be open and preserved, and like I'm so stoked that you let us in here today.
I appreciate y'all coming out.
Okay, this is so epic. I just asked Ed to see if we could open up the front of the Spencer garage. Let's see if it happens. Oh, man, I wonder how long it's been since those doors opened up for a car to get worked on in here.
It's been a while. We have original dirt floor. The floor has never been touched. The second roof, we call it, has been put in back in the 30s, early 30s. And the Ryans, in their ever-increasing wisdom, put the I-beams in the wall over here so they could start sucking in the wall because that's a load-bearing wall. And
okay, so it was bulging out.
Yes, they actually, I think they told me they brought it in about 8 inches.
Oh, wow.
And it still needs 6 more to go. So what I've done is I've chopped off the top of the I-beams and I'll put a steel header on there. And then I actually have to lift this roof up about a couple inches so I could suck the wall in so I could put a new roof on it. So
it's a big work in progress.
This building is about a 3-year project because after all that's done, I got to pour concrete, and after that's done, then we'd start finishing the walls up, then put electrical in, then HVAC.
So it's an ongoing thing at Spencer.
Yes, that's why I said 10 years.
And you can't work on it in the summer because it's about 800 billion degrees. It's got to be hotter than the surface of the sun in here right now.
Yes, and it doesn't help that we get rain and it's humidity. So very few people get into this place. I call this the Holiday Inn for the wasps.
Yeah, I can see tons of wasps up there. But I can also see that double roof line we were talking about outside. And so the dark stone, that's the original roof.
That's the original.
Why'd you say they raised it?
So the Tan Rocks, as I call it, that was the original building built in 1927. Story goes is that they could not get the snow to melt fast enough off it, so it stayed longer because of the pitch of the roof. So they raised the roof in the early 30s, maybe to 35. But they couldn't find matching stone because this is river stone, and I'm assuming everybody was plucking the river dry over here.
Yeah.
And so they built that and put the pitch up there, and this has been the same roof since the mid-30s.
Dang, look at this old visible gas pump down here.
Yeah, that was gifted to us by a gentleman.
That's crazy. And so you're looking for stuff still, sort of to flesh it out, but everything has to be pre-1949?
1949 and earlier is what we're looking for.
So we don't want any poodle skirts in here. We want old school.
Unless you're driving by, come on and check us out.
Well, you can show us your poodle skirt. That's right, yeah. But we don't want any sock hop counters and
or
stuff.
Or slinkies or pet rocks.
Right.
Yes.
We want earlier than that.
Yes.
But this is amazing. Look at all that old wood. Wow. I've wondered about this for years. You are like making my dreams come true,
sorry.
Ed. This is so cool.
Yeah.
Dude, this is so special, you guys, because they may have to end up, you know, kind of having the door semi-permanently closed when they put whatever they're gonna put in here and have guests and visitors and have everybody come through the small doors. So this is kind of amazing seeing a work in progress, and we're not seeing a dilapidated ruin. We're seeing something that several generations of people, different families, all with one thing in common, a love for Route 66, have held on to and preserved for all the future travelers in the 2nd century of the Mother Road. Man, this is really special. I think it's amazing as I keep meeting people who have saved up their whole life. They're waiting for retirement and they're buying these places and they're putting basically their life's work into restoring a piece of Route 66 history. That's how much this means to people. And these people are my heroes. Like Ed's in the other room talking to London right now. I had to sneak in here to let you guys know that. I am just so impressed by anybody who puts their money and their time where their mouth is and like really preserve stuff, because they're not just preserving it for themselves, they're preserving it for all of us, and they're preserving it and all the stories for the next generation and hopefully the next generation and so on and so on. And Ed wasn't just kind enough to bring us inside of Spencer, Missouri, someplace I've always wanted to see and know more about. He was also nice enough to ensure that we got a reservation at a historic property where we can lay down for the night. One I've never been to before. So I'm taking my last look at Spencer. I'm trying to burn this place into my brain forever. We're gonna be leaving here soon. And I have a feeling that by the time I come back next time, a lot will be changed in here. It's kind of amazing seeing a little behind the scenes at the process. I gotta tell you guys, for real, it's 100 degrees in here and so moist. So moist. So I hate to tear my eyes away, but my body will be glad to get back outside. Oh, for a second I thought that said gluten-free. Oh man. Dude, Ed.
And if you come back out, either make it you know, December or
Yeah, sometime when it's not hot.
or
We're
check when we have
sweat.
AC, you know, going on.
Well, and then hopefully one day I'll get a chance to stay out here, but maybe we shouldn't say anything about that just yet. All right, that was awesome. I think I made a new friend for life. We did a quick flyby of the Gay Parita station nearby, and then London and I hit the old Mother Road and cruised down some of the most gorgeous scenery on Route 66, all the way into the birthplace of Route 66, Springfield, Missouri, where we're going to be staying tonight at the epic, historic 1929 Rockwood Motor Court that at the same time is brand new. Dude, the last time I ever saw the Rockwood was in 2017 when I was working on the epic Route 66 series, LA to Chicago, back to LA. And at that time I was out here on College Drive, old Route 66 right here in Springfield, looking for old tourist courts, which had then been converted to long-term rentals. And I can remember looking at the old gas station turned cafe and the old residential office, and then looking back into the motor court thinking, dude, I don't know if this place is sort of long for this earth. I remember I particularly wanted to film on this street because there are actually 2 old school rocked motor courts. Just a few feet away from the Rockwood is the old Shamrock Court, and as you can see, it's for sale. It's not in the greatest shape. I just remember being in this area and thinking, gosh, I wish somebody would buy these and fix them up, you know, take them away from being monthly rentals and turn them back into a place to stay on the oldest part of Route 66. Because Route 66 was established in Springfield, so it really is the birthplace. In 1926, the Shamrock opened in 1927, and then literally just 2 doors down, in 1929, a guy named Devern Ruckman began operating this place as a tourist camp, built this Shell oil filling station here on the property. By the way, apparently he built it right next door to another gas station across this street, and there was always gas wars and price wars, but eventually he turned this station into a cafe so he could make money off the tourists getting their oil changed. Can't remember what the tourist court's original name was, A-OK, something weird like that. It wasn't the Rockwood, because the Rock actually came a few years into the place. These rocked buildings are this weird giraffe-style stonework. It's very much a Missouri thing, very much like an Ozarks thing, kind of northeastern Oklahoma, southwestern Missouri, sort of 1920s up till World War II, sort of that era. I guess the idea was to quote-unquote modernize it for the time, give it a little touch of class, take things up a notch, and it was rechristened the Rockwood Motor Court, and it has pretty much been called that ever since. Look at this over here. You can see what is now 2 units, right? Number 7 and number 6. This was originally just one of the tourist cabins. It would have been this right here, and this, as you can kind of see, would have been the old garage. So that was kind of the MO back then, was like, hey, look, we gave you your own little house for the night. It has its own little garage to put your Model T in and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, later on, as, you know, more and more fancy motels were being built, they realized, hey, if we actually, you know, stop up the garage door, we can have 2 rooms and rent out 2 rooms, where we were only getting the price of 1 before. So a lot of the early tourist courts did that. The Rockwood was no exception, except for there's one very strange room on the property. Well, I shouldn't say 1 room, I should say there were 2 very strange rooms on the property right here, where you had 2 separate bedrooms that had a shared bath between. Well, yeah, obviously that's not gonna fly in the modern world. They apparently had their own garage back here. You can still see the outline of it on the ground down there. So that one's unusual, even for old tourist courts. Keep that room in mind. We'll be back to that room in a second. Anyway, when I was here in 2017, this was a total wreck and a kind of terrifying place to walk around with a camera at. And it seemed as if it was always gonna stay that way until in 2019, a lady named Phyllis Ferguson bought this property with her husband Tim, and from start to finish turned it from a place where people would be perfectly friendly to you if you had a little meth with you, into one of the cutest, the most clean feeling, nice feeling, yet historic, you know, historically authentic, and actually kind of adorable places to stay on Route 66. I'm gonna stay in town tomorrow night too, and I'll show you another cool historic place that I've stayed many times, but I've never been able to stay in a 1920s era, old school tourist court that had the old garages and the little cute cottages and cabins inside of a busy modern city that kind of hadn't been turned into something else before. This is amazing. The neighborhood feels all cleaned up now, which is crazy. Well, I think Phyllis used to be a councilwoman for this part of Springfield, so she probably knows how to clean up a neighborhood or two. She turned the old gas station that was turned into a cafe into a room, so you can actually stay in there now. Look at this though. There's still a nod to the old Shell Oil station right there. And then look at this, veteran owned and operated. That's Phyllis herself. Phyllis was in the Army in the 80s. So I have another new hero on Route 66. I haven't met Tim yet. I'm sure he's awesome too, but Phyllis is kind of amazing. Guys, from California all the way here to Missouri, we have been seeing places that have been the labors of love, and people put little by little blood, sweat, and tears into one room after another. And granted, this is a much smaller place. Springfield, Missouri is not really a small town. It's a big city for this area, so it's a lot easier to get services and plumbing and materials and all that stuff. But she got this done in 7 months. That makes some kind of record on Route 66. That makes her some kind of wonderful. And we got the full historic tour of the place. We found out they put so much love and so much effort into this place, they decided to move in. So they actually live on site now. Ooh, and the best thing of all, other than the cute little concrete statues everywhere, there was a Donald Duck out in front of this place. So adorable. The best thing of all is she showed me all this little hidden history on the property. Like this, she's got one remaining garage that was for this cottage over here. They've turned that into sort of the tool shed area. And then back behind that weird double cottage, number 8 now, right over here, you can actually see the kind of nasty 1970s or 80s vinyl siding in front of the kind of concrete board in front of the original wooden siding that came even before they were rocked up. So you can see where the rock was added to it afterwards. You have all the layers of history right behind the room, which is really cool because that layers of history cottage, as I'm gonna call it from now on, just happens to be mine and London's room for the night. I'm not gonna give you a crazy detailed tour, but let's check out the inside. Number 8 here. Look at this place. This is adorable. Just inside the door, beautiful queen size bed for me. Then you come around this way, farther into the cottage, and there's London's double bed suite, so you can actually sleep 3 or maybe even 4 in here. You got your modern amenities like your microwave and your fridge, a little sink, and look at all the cute antiques in here. This place and this space is absolutely adorable. And I know you really can't tell these kind of things on camera. It's always the kind of thing where you can make anything look good in pictures, but you have to kind of be there to really know. Well, I'm telling you, standing in here, it feels clean. It smells clean. Remember, all this stuff had to be rebuilt, half of it, in 2019. Everything feels new and clean and yet authentic and vintage. Phyllis was so friendly, seriously. I could have talked to her all day. In fact, the only reason I'm not talking to her all day is because, as you can see, we've been a little burnt up by the sun. It has been really hot across this part of Oklahoma and Kansas and Missouri. We didn't go that far today in miles. I mean, you could essentially do what we did in 100 miles of driving, maybe less. But in terms of covering legendary Route 66 ground. We did a lot. We are burnt out. We are tired. London is done and cooked for the day. I've got family in this town we gotta go see tomorrow, so even though it's not even dark yet, I think both of us are done for the night. Hey, remember, Random Land is a show funded entirely with your help. That means Patreon, that means merch, that means stuff like that. We don't do big sponsorships or anything like that. If you like these adventures, first of all, I suggest you check out our Route 66 playlists. There are 2 Route 66 playlists. The one that just says Route 66 has every adventure I've ever done on the road that I remembered to put in there anyways. You can check out all the other information at randomland.com. Everything's there, Patreon, the merch, links to all social media, all those fun things that I wish I didn't have to tell you about every time. Oh, but since YouTube doesn't show every video to every subscriber, I gotta keep repeating myself over and over again. Blame YouTube, guys. Finally, last thing I'm gonna say, the biggest way you can help is to share this video with 2 people that you think would really enjoy it. And after that, you've done your duty. I think we've all done our duty today. It's time to go home and sleep well. See you guys a little further on down the road. We have some loaded mashed potatoes with some Tonys if you want to spice things up. And then what do we have here? 0 sugar, Dr. Pepper. Then what surprise do we have for a main? Gluten-free chicken freaking nuggets. Yes, I know that's a lot, but I can't eat breakfast or lunch on the road, so that's what I got. And look at this. I got some Oklahoma Joe's hot barbecue. That's the best thing that you could put inside of you. Okay, maybe not. That's gonna give you heartburn, but this is the best barbecue sauce of all time. Hands down that I've ever had. I kinda like the spice, man. Haven't had any spice since my procedures. So just having a little spice vacation the last couple days with this bottle. I'm in love. I'm in love! And that's my dinner. And I can only eat this dinner when there's microwaves and fridges and fun things in here. And now I'm dancing and I'm cruising and I'm snacking and I'm snacking and I'm snacking and snacking and I'm snacking and snacking. What's London doing? Let's see what he's up to. Snacking and snacking and snacking and snacking and snacking and snacking and he's snacking and he's eating oatmeal, cream pies and gluten. And goodbye, go home or sleep well. These are pretty good, by the way, if you have celiac disease. It's time for... This wouldn't be. That wouldn't be. Go home. Sleep well. I'm losing my mind.